Hello and welcome to another episode of Metal Dude. I'm your host, Chuck Parnell. Metal Dude's a show we talk about hard rock, metal, punk, mainstream, unsigned, local, and everything and anything in between. With me as always is Starsky to my hutch, Mick Rotella.
Thank you very much, love. How are you doing?
Again, American English, nobody's answered it yet. You guys got to come through for me.
You know, the thing is, I was thinking about this. Maybe you should start the show a little different. Maybe on your end, you should be, like, hello, my name is Charles Parnell III. No? Doesn't work for you?
I'm the fourth, so.
Are you really?
I don't know how I could be
You
the
always
third.
sign at the third, though, don't you?
No.
Really?
Well,
I went to public school, so maybe I don't know what that looks like. Forgive me on that.
It's so hot.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, what are we talking about this week?
Anything exciting happened to you last week or no? Or last time?
Last time. No, nothing.
Yeah, me too.
2 days ago or whatever that was.
Well, enough of the small talk. We're going to jump right in. This episode, we're talking about Alice Cooper.
Yes.
Big Alice fans. Probably, I'd say, the first guy to start the, theatrical or the theatrics in music or a live stage show.
Very, for the time, man. I remember, I think he was the first person I ever really saw that was conscious of a music that really did something crazy that I remember. I think I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. And
right.
I remember watching, I think he had a special on TV, Welcome to My Nightmare. And that just hit right in my zone because I was a kid. I loved the whole Frankenstein and, Wolfman, that whole kind of thing. And it was like, wow, what's this guy doing? And he actually had music that was cool too, So, first guy to really kind of start that and kind of go with it. And people really paid attention to what he looked like as opposed to what they sounded like, right? I mean, so.
Well, I found it odd. You look past him or after him, Kiss was evil, Motley Crue was evil, Marilyn Manson, all this stuff. Everybody or the mainstream seemed to get Alice Cooper of all things. I mean, here's a guy who was on the Muppets.
I remember that was the greatest episode.
Oh yeah, dude's on the Muppets, running around with a bunch of puppets. He was friends with Elvis Presley. Hung out with Elvis Presley at Graceland before.
Well, then he's got. I mean, later on, he's a big golf nut. So, and he still looks exactly the same as he does back then, but he's like a polo shirt with a white Titleist hat,
Right.
And it's like nobody really thinks anything of it. He's out there fucking knocking the links around,
Plaid pants, white polo with the teal sweater.
Yeah, he doesn't play up like let's go do it in leather and blood all over. He straight up does the whole thing, So. It is kind of weird that he is a little bit more acceptable, Maybe everybody else kind of did it more than he did. His stuff was fairly tame, I guess, compared to some of the other things later on, even though he had the guillotine and stuff like that, but...
Well, yeah, the guillotine, he had, babies on swords. I mean, come on, and he still was grasped by the mainstream. Nobody was scared, it seemed. And
yeah.
This was in his tremendous alcoholic drug addiction days. Yeah, and
I don't know where the line was when he stopped. You know what I mean? Usually there's a definitive line where you could say, they're off the wagon, they're on the wagon. You look at Ozzy, and well, that's a bad example because I don't think he's ever been off the wagon. But you can see when it got worse. With him, it's just like, I don't know.
All of a sudden it changed.
I don't know. And now he's doing, Friday the 13th movie songs. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. And he's never changed his look pretty much. He's pretty much stayed the same. He's pretty much does everything the same. And it's great that he's still around. He's, whatever you see this, I mean, he's on tour with Motley Crue right now, I saw him a couple years ago with Iron Maiden.
Really?
Yeah, he opened up for Iron Maiden.
Him with Motley Crue to me sounds weird. And it's more of a, not music-wise, I mean, it's a great tour lineup, but the way Motley Crue is, off the wall, wild, just nutcase. And then there's cool, calm, and collect Alice Cooper. And then there's frantic, let's go nuts, stage Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that he's always said. He says, Alice Cooper is a character, not him.
But he still seems almost that same way off this. Like I don't differentiate between the two.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he still kind of seems the same. He doesn't seem as threatening on stage. You know. I mean, but look what we've seen in the last 30 some years.
Right.
You know. He seems tame. He just seems like somebody cool that we've all dug. You know what I mean? Where some of these guys, Manson is probably sips tea and I don't know, watches British comedy by himself at home, but you get on stage and he's just just a horror.
Talks a little British accent when he's alone.
He's a little crazy. He is really. Likes to watch some Monty Python. So I don't know. Another thing I was going to ask too. You think Alice just really hated Kiss? And maybe he still does, because he really only had 1 or 2 years before Kiss showed up and let's be honest, showed him up.
It was about 4 or 5 years, something like that. I think Alice had a career.
And then he was, as far as I know, Kiss has always been way up here, and nothing wrong with Alice, but he's always just kind of been down here compared to them.
Right.
So I just wonder if he just son of a, just cursing their name,
Well, in Decline of Western Civilization, the Metal Years, he's standing there and he's got the news, and he goes, I can think of a couple people that right here when they're talking about
Yes, I remember that.
everybody ripping each other off. I'd love to know. That was the first time when I first saw this. I was 15, 16, something like that. First time I saw this, I wondered if it was Kiss. Now it's something I've always questioned. I'd love to meet him and ask, is there any way you remember who you were talking about when you said that? Because I'd love to know who it is.
Well, he mentions Kiss in that, where they ask him straight up. I think he had it was like Rock in Rio or something, where he did the biggest concert anybody ever did.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, even bigger than Kiss. He's like, yeah, well, we try.
Right.
Or something like that. So I bet, I mean, maybe now he's just kind of let it go, but I mean, Kiss just really crawled to the top so quick and overshadowed what he did.
Right.
So I wonder if at the back he's just like, I hope they die in a car fire or something. You know what I mean? So I've always just wanted to know, if he really just felt that way about them.
I think the one cool thing I thought was, I think it was one of his best friends or his best friend or whatever was his manager, or is still his manager for years. Read this in his biography, which his biography was written mentioning golf. Every 2 or 3 chapters of his bio, there's a chapter on golf.
I'm already bored.
2 or 3 chapters on his life. Chapter on golf. It was the funniest thing. It's like every so often there's a little chapter. Okay, here's how to improve your swing. When you're putting, do this.
Oh my God! Not how to make $1 million in a record contract, or how to be all that. He's just like, all right, eye up the putter this way, go against the, whatever. Yeah, I just so find that weird that he's just such an avid golfer and just so, into it, And he lives in Arizona.
Yeah.
And and he's got that, I forget what, it's like the Alice Cooper Invitational or something every year. And it's always got all these rock stars in it, That to me would be the fun thing to
Vince
see.
Neil's done this, I think.
He's got his, was it the Skylar Neal Foundation,
Yep.
where he does the same thing too. And him, I just picture Vince just kind of going out there going, yeah, whatever, and just drinking and doing whatever. But Alice takes it serious.
Oh, yeah.
He's out there, probably got Tiger Woods at one point on the side giving him pointers, how it's all getting done. And me, I've played mini golf once and threw it third one in, just throwing them at the highway after I was so bored. So it's just not me, man. I mean, but I would play around with him just to be, just to say I did it.
Love to be. I just picture be a caddy somewhere. Here's 4 metal guys: Alice, Vince Neil, whoever else.
You
Dave
think they're horrible
Mustaine.
tippers?
God, I hope not.
Well, I guess the tip would be just being there, but they're probably just really boring guys.
I'm sure.
Talking about their tax dividends or their 401k. Oh, my elbow hurts. You think you're gonna get some really good stories out of them, and they're talking about, I'm gonna go long on wheat this year. They're gonna, do it. I don't know. It would be funny though.
I just picture it. Well, this one time when I was drinking Budweiser and I was doing this or that. And I just picture all the drunk stories. Yeah.
It could, well, but he's been sober for so long. Do you think that he kind of cuts that off and, let's talk about Stucky's Barbecue or something, this really good place that we got to go to or whatever.
I don't know. One of two. It's either shies away from it, or I can see him talking it up, venting completely to keep him off the sauce, make sure that he stays clean.
Don't bring up Kiss when you're out on the links with him. You just get
Don't
so
tell me
angry.
that. That's the first thing I'm going to say now.
Well, yeah, no, we're agitators, so we'll know what's going on. Hey, you know what I always thought was funny? You remember the video for Poison that he did? Like when he made that comeback and he had that song Poison? You ever remember, like, in that video, like, he's out front doing his thing, but the band in the back, it's like the shadows over their faces. You can't see anybody. Did you find that weird?
Yeah.
And like, so I don't know everybody in that band, but I know the drummer, that was Eric Singer who is now in Kiss, and he was with Lita Ford, he was with Ted Nugent, a bunch of other bands. And so I knew it's him, and then I know the guitar player is Al Petrelli, who wound up playing in Megadeth.
Right.
But I always just kind of thought that was funny. If you ever see the video again, I mean, they're playing and you can see them, but there's literally a shadow across their faces that you don't know who it is.
Who's what.
And I'm like, who's gonna? Is he scarred by? Oh, well, there's the correlation with Kiss and him. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just knew.
Well, that or like in Megadeth's Anarchy in the UK. Yeah, it was Anarchy in the UK, sorry. All you see is, when doing the whole thing, you see Mustaine through the whole deal. But then Ellefson.
You see him once.
And then, but this shows the band behind him, and they're just black silhouettes.
Yes, you're right.
And it looks just like the same band as Jeff Young and I forget the drummer now for So Far, So Good, So What.
Was it Chuck Baylor?
Could be.
Or was it the other guy? God, I can't remember.
No, I know it wasn't Gar. It wasn't the dude
it wasn't. I
before.
think it was Chuck Baylor.
Yeah.
I think it was Chuck Baylor.
But the silhouettes look like them.
It's not them?
But no, I don't know, but they're blacked out, so you don't know for sure.
Yeah, I remember.
I'd love to see some contractor why this is.
I know you see Dave Ellis for one. Isn't he like behind bars or something? He says like one word, and that's the only thing you see.
Oh.
Or no, wasn't it for
I've messed this
18?
up.
Or it was an Alice Cooper song.
Yes, and I screwed this up. God, I'm retarded.
Well, but it fit in with the Alice Cooper thing, so don't worry about it. But yeah, he says one word out.
It's No More Mr. Nice
Yes,
Guy.
No More
That's
Mr.
what
Nice
it
Guy.
was. Yeah, because it was in between So Far, So Good, So What and Rust in Peace. And that's what it was, because there's like two dudes, and it looks just like the So Far, So Good, So What lineup, but the two guys are blanked out, and you got Ellefson going, no more nice guy.
Yep. And they must have said, okay, our budget is $45, so you can be in it for like 3 seconds. That's literally it, And they're like, well, take my $45.
You say 4 lines and you're done.
Not even. Well, it's just you point and give the thumbs up or something, and that's all you can do in that video, man. That's all we got budgeted for. But I do remember that, and that's good bringing that one in,
Yeah, it'd be nice if I was smart enough to remember what the song was.
Now, another funny thing, and not many people know this, but Kip Winger actually.
Oh, God.
I know, and this is why I'm bringing this up. Kip Winger actually played bass for him on, I think it was Constrictor.
I was gonna say, was it Poison? Was it on the song Poison?
No, it was actually prior to that when he kind of came back.
Yeah.
And remember Kane Roberts, who was this big buff. Looked like a bodybuilder, but he was his guitar player. And if you remember, his guitar looked like a machine gun.
Yeah.
And so he'd do a solo and they'd go off. So Kip Winger was played bass for him and on tour, but you only get to stand on like one small spot on the stage.
Right.
And he's just like rocking out, like, no more, whatever it is. And
never gonna live that down.
no, and then he wrote. I didn't know this until the other day. He wrote like most of that album with Alice.
Right.
So. Then he went on to massive fame and fortune with 17 and whatever else
Good
that
old
they
Kip.
did. Go Kip. And the Playgirl episode, which I'm sure you got autographed, but that's cool.
No, I've just got the Peter Steele one. Not autographed though.
Oh, Peter Still? Is that up in your locker?
Typo negative. Of course it is.
Typo. We'll have to do a show on them, man. They're a whole other thing, man. Were you a big Typo Negative fan?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Such a unique voice that guy had, man. I mean,
Why
just,
is- like you say, well, it'll be another episode. We'll talk about typo, but the one thing I just found funny live, or at least when they opened for Queensryche, the keyboardist, his back would face the audience, and he would play with this big thing. I mean, they're practically at like a 90-degree angle, and he would play with his back to the crowd, but he'd turn around and look.
oh, really?
It's the weirdest thing.
I saw them at Ozfest one year, and I'd never seen them before, and so I was interested to check out a new band. And I remember he's like, "All right, we're gonna do a cover." I think is when they did "Cinnamon Girl,"
Right.
When they did that cover, and he's like, "We have a guest vocals come out, Ronnie James Dio," and I almost lost it. I'm like, "Ronnie James Dio's here? Oh my God!" And then it was actually Phil Anselmo from Pantera came out and sang with them. But I was like, "Oh my God! Oh yeah, that's cool." It's like Ronnie James Dio. This is awesome.
That's great.
But so I think they came out and did "Cinnamon Girl," and actually did a really good job of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I think Motorhead played right after him, and I think I'm still
like
deaf
night
from
and day.
that. What's that?
It's like night and day.
Yeah. I mean, literally, and we'll have to do an episode on them. Literally the loudest band I've ever seen in my entire life.
Motorhead?
Just insane. They'll play a room this big and have like a 400,000 watt, PA. It's insane.
So Lemmy can hear.
You still can't hear, but
Well, on that note, that's going to bring us to our segment, High Five. It's not a top 5 list. It's just 5 of something, whatever the subject is. From Mick's side, my side, in no particular order. Go.
top 5. Well, high 5 Alice Cooper songs that since we're searching this that I really dig. There's some common ones, but I'd have to go with "Only Women Bleed" is one of them, and I loved Lita Ford's cover of that. I
Right.
mean, that was phenomenal and a great song. He also had a song called "Freedom" off of "Raise Your Fist and Yell." It was about 1987. Unfortunately, it was a Kip Winger era, Kane Roberts, but it was actually a pretty good song. "Only My Heart Talking" with Steven Tyler, if you remember that one. Video is a little 80-ish and cheesy, but it's still, I thought it was a pretty good song. And of course, "School's Out," I loved that one. I mean, if you were in school
yeah.
and you heard that, it was like, dude, the greatest song ever, the day after school. And then, speaking of the decline of Western civilization, "Under My Wheels," where they had Guns N' Roses backing him up, that is still one of the greatest Alice songs ever.
Where Axl
just
comes
that-
out and sings it with him.
Well, yeah, and it's got Slash, Izzy, and I believe Steven Adler's. I think it's the whole band. I think it's them. So those right there, and especially "Under My Wheels," those are mine right there. I mean, just phenomenal.
Right.
I
agree. I got to agree with you on "Under My Wheels." But "Poison" was always a good one. I always like that. Then I got to go back into the day, 18.
That almost made my list. Actually, the day that I turned 18, that was the first song I got up and put it in my cassette player and cranked up.
It's a Twisted Sister song, but he's on it, which I think is funny. You got "School's Out." Then he goes with Twisted Sister and "Be Cruel to Your School."
You know who else was on that song?
It escapes me, but yeah.
Billy Joel.
Was he really?
He played piano on that song, yeah. That is my favorite Twisted Sister record. That's Come Out and Play.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I want to say, and I'm probably wrong on this, I want to say Brian Setzer's on that song too. I could be wrong, but I think Brian Setzer's on
I
that
gotta
song.
go look this up. And then
I'm going to prove you wrong, baby.
last, and it is probably my favorite because I was a big Friday the 13th fan, but "Man Behind the Mask." It was such a dorky song, cheesy, but it was just great.
It was awesome, and I think that was kind of what really brought him back, because I don't think we really had heard of him too much before that.
Right.
That was about 85, 86 or so. Really kind of when metal was kind of starting to come back and was just about to blow up again.
Yep.
So he was kind of part of that because that was one of the coolest videos, man.
Oh, yeah. It
You
was
know?
like all highlights from, I think it was like Friday the 13th Final Chapter. I think it was that one.
What was it? Friday the 13th, 73 or something
Right.
like that.
Exactly.
Alice versus Jason. something like that. I don't remember, but
So now, you brought in the Alice Cooper comic.
yes.
Do you remember the story? Did you ever read it, or you just keep it in the plastic? Because you're supposed to keep them bagged and boarded, never open them, never break the
And it's got to
binding.
be like the one. Is it the ones like not Mylar or whatever people go nuts on? You can't
Right.
have plastic. you
Right.
know?
You should send this to a grader, and then it's sealed, and you get a grade 1 to 10.
I never got that into it. I just bought the comic. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
man, come on. Comic fans all over are like just rolling their eyes now and
Do
sighing.
you think they're actually watching this show? Or are they
Yeah.
going to watch like Deep Space Nine reruns?
Why would they not watch this show?
Everybody
We've got a
should
comic
watch
book,
this.
for God's sakes.
This was the funny thing about this comic book was, when you talk about bands and comics, everybody brings up Kiss,
Right.
as having the biggest ones. But actually, this one came out prior. That was their very first one. It actually says #1 right there. So I think as I was looking for the Kiss comic again, I stumbled across this one. I'm like, hell, it's Alice Cooper, man. I got to buy it. I think it was like $8 or something like that.
Sweet.
So I picked it up, and I've had that since the 80s as well. And we were just talking about this a little while ago. Speaking of Kiss, first comic that Kiss was ever in,
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. And it actually was in 2 episodes of that, or 2 comics of that.
Issues.
Issues, I'm sorry.
Yeah, aren't they like the back page or 2, and then the first page or 2, the next
It's
the
something
next
like,
issue?
I've got those 2. I gotta find them, and I know one of them's like maybe 3 or 4 pages in the middle, and then another one is
Okay.
like just they're just kind of like a little pane or something. God, it's been so long since I've looked through them. But yeah, you're right, and I got
it's-
them both.
It's to coincide with when Kiss put out their comic.
Now, do you think? No, was that actually what happened? They were kind of previewing that Kiss was going to be in a comic, or do you think it was that they put him in here and blew up, and now we got to give him a comic?
No, I think what they did is they knew Kiss was going to be in a comic. They already had it written. They had the whole storyline written. And I look at it as a sales thing to sell more comics. It's like, hey, let's pop them in Howard the Duck, get it out there, because everybody knew there was going to be a Kiss comic book, just didn't know exactly when. Throw them out in Howard the Duck, get that rumor going. Everybody's going to run out and buy Howard the Duck.
Oh,
Then they're going to run out and buy the Kiss issue 1 and 2, and then
Which they
run
did.
back out and get the next issue of Howard the Duck.
and how many times have Kiss reissued that, and I've bought, probably 50 of them. The funny thing is, I went to the Kiss convention in '90, I believe it was '95, and they had the original painting of the cover of the
Yep.
second one, and it's literally like, it's like
huge.
bigger than this,
Yeah.
It's actually something, it's very cool and like hand painted, and totally to have that in my living room. I totally would do that, and maybe I should have when it went up for sale.
Find an artist and just have them painted on the wall.
Well, you've been to my house, you've seen the Destroyer photo that I have that's on my wall. A friend of mine painted that
Really?
by hand, and I can't tell that from the cover. So yeah, you're right. There's
See,
a lot of
now,
hungry
good-
artists
good-
out there.
Get him back and have him do the comic book right in the living room wall.
A mural.
Sure, why not?
My house of Valley would actually go up maybe. Well, only the Kiss fan. Well, there's so many of them, so maybe you're right.
They're not
Maybe
Kiss
you don't.
fans. They're the Kiss Army.
We're the Kiss Army, huh? Yeah,
I'd say.
absolutely. Do you know Alice's real name?
I used to because I read the damn book. I can't remember.
He doesn't
now.
refer to himself as his real name in that book. Is it always as a third person? Well, Alice had Wheaties today, so he didn't have to do that in the book.
No, not that I remember.
Alice came in 6 under par today. He didn't do that at all?
No.
Oh, okay.
He just taught you how to play golf. He didn't talk about his own
He
game.
doesn't how good he was?
Right.
No, okay. Vince, and I always blow the last. It was like, was it Fernier?
Okay.
I can't remember. It starts with an F, something like that.
Vince F.
Yeah, Vince. And also just like Nikki Sixx's real name is like Frankie Ferrano or something like that.
Named after his dad, who then when he finally caught up with his dad said, I don't have a son. Want nothing to do
Ouch.
with him. Yet you name
Just like my dad.
you name your kid after you. What's the deal?
Should have just
And
named
then
him
you don't want
Sue.
anything to do with him after a month or whatever it was.
And then, did you know that when Alice went out on tour for the Nightmare, Welcome to My Nightmare, he had all this huge production, so he has all these ballet dancers, and I've seen the show, so it's kind of trippy and dreamy. Starts digging one of the dancers, and eventually winds up marrying her. and that's his wife, to this day.
Right.
So I always thought that was kind of weird. There's a parallel there about how he's this crazy demon, and here's this, delicate ballet dancer, and they hook up.
They
and
mesh.
Yeah, and I think they get at least one daughter, and she's kind of like a ballet thing too. So it's kind of funny how that all panned out that way.
One of the best Alice stories I've heard was hanging with Elvis at Graceland, and they're all drinking, they're all blitzed, and Elvis was like a third-degree black belt or something karate.
Yeah, he made that in like 2 or 3 days,
Did he?
from
Okay,
start to
good.
finish,
Oh,
while eating that peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Right. But he pulls out like this 38, hands it to Alice. Alice like, I don't know if this thing's loaded. I don't know anything about it. And Elvis like, just point it at me. And he's like pointing it at Elvis, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to take this, doesn't know how to react. Just like pointing it at him. Elvis like twirls around, kicks the gun out of his hand. Alice is still standing there like this with his hand still out, but there's no gun anymore. And he's just like, okay. And then he goes back in the living room. I forget who the third person was, the third or fourth person that was with him, but it was Elvis, Alice Cooper, and it'd be something like,
Sinatra.
Dean Martin or
Yeah.
something like this. Yeah, and Sinatra or
Sammy.
something. Right.
Hey, babe. Don't point that at my eye. The funny thing, I've been to Graceland, and in the back there's like a building where Elvis used to shoot his gun.
Right.
It's like a building and a doorway, and in the doorway, in the room, he used to have his his target. But you look at this building, and he used to stand back. There's bullet holes everywhere on the outside except where that target is. And he must be out there. Damn, let me try again. Damn it, that didn't count.
Let
me get a machine gun.
Elvis wasn't a very good shot.
No. And by the way, don't make fun of Elvis in Graceland like
they don't
we
like
did.
that?
No, it's kind of like calling Jesus out in church. Don't want to do it there. I know that from experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but you gotta if you're ever there, look at the bullet holes in the back. It's just like they're everywhere. They're peppered on the outside, but nothing on the inside, man. It was just phenomenal.
That's great. Well, on that note, mentally defective ones, this has been Metal Dude. Again, I'm Chuck Parnell.
And I'm Mitt Rotella.
If you visit Graceland, make sure you check out the Bullet Hole House. Have a good one, everybody.
Ba, 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 ba,